Hello, everyone. This is Kirill, and we are continuing with our review lesson series. Today, we are looking at lesson 55 that reviews the lessons from 26 to 30, right? Yeah, I think so. And yeah, without any further ado, let me share the screen and we'll start. Okay, share this. Alrighty. So review lesson 55. Sorry, was my bad. 21 to 25 we're reviewing. Anyway, I am determined to see things differently. Lesson 21. What I see now are but signs of disease, disaster, and death. This cannot be what God created for his beloved Son. The very fact that I see such things is proof that I do not understand God. Therefore, I do not understand his Son. What I see tells me that I don't know who I am. I am determined to see the witnesses to the truth in me, rather than those which shows me an illusion of myself. Yeah, so this lesson just really reiterates that the very fact that we see what we see outside of us, disease, disaster, death, and decay, and all the things that we don't like, but in fact, really even those that we do like, uh, it doesn't really make a lot of difference. So everything that could have an opposite could be kind of put into the same bucket in this case. So this can't be what God created for his beloved Son, which is reasonable because otherwise it would mean that because God created the Son by extending himself, it would mean that God actually contains so if God, everything that is, then it would mean that God actually contains disease, disaster, and death in his mind. Uh, has these ideas, and this obviously is nonsensical. Um, Now, the very fact that I see such things is a proof that I do not understand God. Yeah, so and we remember from the previous lessons that we assign all the meaning to everything that we see. And the very fact that I see such things, which we could say, the very fact that I project this meaning onto these things that I made, and I am looking at the reflection of my meaning and I'm perceiving the meaning that I projected onto things, is proof that I do not understand God. Again, reasonable, because if my mind contains things like disease, disaster, death, and others that I then project onto the external world and see their reflections back as perception, then it means that my mind is not like God's. And if we remember that God created his Son by extending himself, and therefore Son is exactly like God. It's the same thought. It's just a thought extended. God. Well, of course, it's very difficult to talk about these things, but the way I understand it right now is uh, God just extended thought about himself, and this part that he extended, yeah, it is known as God's Son. Um, and this is exactly why God's Son is united with God because it's essentially the same thought. And this is exactly why God's Son is exactly like the like God, because it was physically created, well, physically, literally created from the God's thought about himself. Uh, Therefore, I also don't understand his Son. And so, yeah, so if I don't understand God, it automatically means, because Son is the same thought, I don't understand his Son. Which means what I see tells me that I don't know who I am. Right? Okay. I am determined to see the witnesses to the truth in me rather than those which show me an illusion of myself. So here, Jesus just tells us that there is choice, and I could be determined to see either witnesses of truth in me or witnesses about an illusion of myself. So first of all, here we only talk about the choice really is not between the external world, internal world, God, or whatever. So the choice is really the choice is really between how I think about myself, what self-image I have. And self-image is also a kind of, it's not entirely what we're talking about. Essentially, what I recognize as myself. If I recognize myself as a body, we are talking about illusions, because God clearly did not create bodies, because they are just for the simple reason that they are limited. And for a lot of other reasons, but just one of them. And if I choose myself to see as spirit, then I have a chance to witness the truth in me. And so here we say that we could exert a determination between the two. So we actually have a choice. I think the most important thing about this phrase for me personally is that we actually have a choice, and the choice is real. Like when I was a little bit younger, well, it's not even the point. When I only started the course, I had an impression that I don't really have a choice, because it's like what Jesus describes in chapter 28, section 4, the hero of a dream, when he says that the whole purpose of the body and all the stories that we tell ourselves about the body is to prove that the external is the root cause and I'm the effect. And when I was firmly in this idea that the external world is the root cause and I'm the effect, so I was born with using other bodies, and it was not my choice. I'm a victim of everything. So I'm the kind of consequence of the cruel or not so cruel external world. And when I looked at the world this way, there wasn't a real choice between this point of view and another point of view where my mind is the real root cause of everything. And if, in fact, when I say my mind, I really mean our united mind, because there are no private thoughts anyway. So mind is the root cause and the external world is the effect. So this is kind of a reverse point of view. And yeah, nowadays I see that the choice is real. Yeah, so it's important, I think, in this sentence to understand that we're talking about the choice, really, that the choice is real and could be made. And I'm determined to make this choice towards being the root cause of everything. All right, let's move on. Lesson 22. What I see is a form of vengeance. Interesting choice of words, isn't it? Okay, let's read it through. The world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. It is a picture of attack on everything, by everything. It is anything but a reflection of the love of God and the love of His Son. It is my own attack thoughts that give rise to this picture. My loving thoughts will save me from this perception of the world and give me the peace God intended me to have. Yeah, very interesting. I think by the time we discuss it now, like the logical structure of it is clear. So the world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. Well, I mean, I guess pretty much every one of us could look around and confirm that from their own personal experience. It is a picture of attack on everything by everything. So yeah, like we all do pretend and say, oh, he couldn't help it or she couldn't help it. And yeah, it's just a natural reaction. I certainly was one of those who would say like something like that, I don't know, 10 years ago for sure. It's natural. I didn't question my reactions and my ideas, and I just assumed they are true. And I was willing to attack anyone who would disagree. An attack also could be quite mild. You could have uh, a just kind of withhold approval from someone or withhold um, some kind of loving attitude from someone in response to their disagreement. So yeah, it could be quite subtle, but nevertheless, attack is attack, and whatever form it takes, it is still the attack. It is anything but a reflection of the love of God and the love of His Son. Yes. It is my own attack thoughts that give rise to this picture. So again and again and again and again and again, we are reiterating that what we see and is so what we see is essentially the meaning that we give to anything, to everything. And I'm sure you have experienced when two different people look at the same thing and they have very different reactions. And this just tells me that, in fact, the meaning of what we see, we are just creating ourselves. There's no set meaning of anything in terms of the external world. Everything is changeable, everything is subject to interpretation. And yeah, here we just say that everything that I don't like, uh, and in fact, as I made a note, everything that has an opposite, if I don't like it, whether I do like it or not, doesn't really matter. Everything that has an opposite has kind of arisen from my attack thoughts. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a little note on what I mean. So when we say, I know, let's take a pair of hungry fool as a simple example. So we are generally experiencing unpleasant feelings when we are hungry. And then when we start eating, we experience kind of these negative feelings go away, kind of. But then we could overeat as well, and they will come back, but in a different form. So the fact that we have temporarily quashed the negative feelings does not really mean that they. So everything that's not permanent, and if the negative thing eventually will return, or there's a risk that it will return, it's still the part of the same kind of game. It doesn't matter if, like we say, a lot of money, not enough money, uh, kind of happy relationship, unhappy relationship. A relationship is slightly different topic, not in the essence, but it is a center of the a lot of attention from the course. So yeah, just let's not touch this for a moment. It will be a little bit misleading. But yeah, so what I just want to say is that my attack thoughts, in fact, create not just what I don't like, but what I don't like must have the opposite in the world of duality. And therefore, I create them as a pair always. But course actually focuses on forgiving what we do not like first, and then gradually the things that we do like will come to the forefront because we wouldn't want to depend on something that's unreliable. And their unreliability, because even good things come and go, will eventually create tension in us. We wouldn't want to feel these things either. We would just choose only the things that are permanent. Okay, let's move on. My loving thoughts will save me from this perception of the world and give me the peace God intended me to have. It's a perfect illustration for what I was just saying. Um, so when we say, give me peace God intended me to have, it means peace about anything, about everything, in all situation, in all kinds of environments, and all kinds of combinations of physical factors. I don't know, birth, death, split up, marriage, whatever it is, conflict, I don't know, progress, good progress. Yeah, all of that is not peace really, because peace is just accepting everything as it is with gratitude, and accepting it in a way that we absolutely sure that our minds are the source of everything, and therefore what happens outside does not really matter on one hand, and on another hand, because we are kind of responsible for what we think, and we gained enough uh, practice and control over what we think consistently, the external world will have to reflect back to us what we think. And we would understand that we could be peaceful because we could always be peaceful in our mind, and external world, while it still matter for a while, uh, it would only reflect the things that we think. And because we control what we think, we will effectively control the world. And this is when a world becomes an illusion, because we would start to recognize that the because we stop seeing ourselves as a victim, because we stop seeing ourselves as a consequence of the world, as a victim of what's happening outside. So like we stop kind of using the ideas of I can't help it, it just happened to me. So these things will gradually stop as we forgive everything in the world. And because of that, world will stop dictating us its ways. And because of that, we will recognize that we are actually the source of everything that happens. And because of that, we can always be in control, and therefore there is nothing to worry about, and therefore there's only peace. And so my loving thoughts will save me from this perception of the world. We were talking about attack thoughts and the uh, negative perception of the world, or fragmented rather, and give me peace God intended me to have. So we are talking about peace as the only real option for ourselves and for God, and therefore for ourselves. Lesson 23. I can escape from this world by giving up attack thoughts. Yes, this is certainly a development of a previous lesson, but let's read on. Herein lies salvation, and nowhere else. Without attack thoughts, I could not see a world of attack. As forgiveness allows love to return to my awareness, I will see a world of peace and safety and joy. And it is this I choose to see in place of what I look on now. We have, in fact, already discussed all of that in the previous lesson. Yeah, the only note I want to make is a completely uncompromising idea. First bullet point. Herein lies salvation and nowhere else. It's like, don't even try. Do only this and nothing else. So this uncompromising notion, it it appears quite frequently in the lessons and in the text. And sometimes we are thinking like, well, yeah, but maybe, or that, or like we have kind of hesitation to accept it. And I certainly do, to some degree, have hesitation about strong statements in the lessons and in the course. But that's the whole point. Make no exceptions, because if you make one exception, you effectively deny the heaven completely. By heaven, I mean the return to the peace of mind in the God state, God awareness. If you just make one, if I make just one tiny exception, I deny myself kind of a place in God's love completely. Because either I'm 100% there or I'm 100% not there. So there's no middle ground. These are irreconcilable ideas. Okay, so let's move on. Lesson 24. I do not perceive my own best interests. How could I recognize my own best interests when I do not know who I am? What I think, what I think are my best interests would merely bind me closer to the world of illusions. I am willing to follow the guide God has given me to find out what my own best interests are, recognizing that I cannot perceive them by myself. Yeah, so we are on a slightly different topic now. Best interests. How curious. Yeah, I think everyone thinks that they know what's best for them. And this is certainly was me several years ago. I was completely sure. I will explain why I'm laughing in a second. That I know what I need for happiness, and the list was long. a house, a car, a dream job, a partner, and blah, blah. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And also, the problem with this list is that it's not set. It could be fluctuating from day to day, from week to week, depending on how I feel. And of course, when you have a list like that, which has a title, this is 25,000 things I need for happiness, then like, how can you get there? Like, if you think about it, it just keeps changing and expanding and contracting and whatever, depending on your mood, depending on, I don't know, whatever situation happens, it just changes every time. And it is, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking, like, how on earth I could get happy if the conditions of happiness that I set for myself are could fluctuate from minute to minute. What am I supposed to do? So, for example, if I when I didn't have car, I recognized very kind of acutely that everything around me is built for people with cars, and I couldn't go to the shop, I couldn't go la la la. I have to hire a taxi, whatnot. And I thought, oh, if I only had a car, then same story. If I only had a house, if I only had this, if I only had that, if I only had money, if I only had whatever. And so, and the first statement just says, how could I recognize my own best interest? By best interest here, we understand kind of what will make me happy when I don't know who I am. And so, sounds logical. So, for example, we wouldn't assume that, I don't know, pork would make a caterpillar happy. They just don't eat pork. Or we wouldn't assume that fish would make. Uh, so what I'm saying is that maybe it's not a great example, but what I'm saying is that if I know what it is, I could try to provide for it. If it's a cat, I know how to feed it, how to handle it, how to play with it, how to pet it, and so on, so on, so on. How to deal with cats. If it's a dog, if it's a, I don't know, husband or wife, if these are kids, like we learn what we think we know what's best for them. But if I don't know who I am, and we established in previous lessons that I don't know who I am, because if I did, I wouldn't see the world of disease and despair and death and all these things. So we established that I do not know who I am. And then we say we make the next step. If I don't know who I am, how can I think about my own best interests? So let's say, hypothetical example, I have a pet and I'm not sure if it's a cat or a dog. And for the record, cats and dogs have very different diets. How do I feed it? How do I play with it? Do I walk with it? Does it stay at home? What do I do? And it's the same with us. Like we have no idea what would make us happy because we don't know who we are. We couldn't identify who we are. And while we think we're a body, we're bodies, but well, are we happy with this self-identification? And we don't know. We definitely, so I'm speaking for myself, I definitely didn't know any better for most of my life. Okay, so I could not recognize my own best interests because I don't know who I am. What I think are my best interests would merely bind me closer to the world of illusions. Right. So that's exactly the example I gave. So money, house, car, job, whatever, whatever, whatever. All these things we think. So I certainly thought that it is in my best interest to have best of what the world could offer for myself. But what happens is that by first of all pursuing that and then obtaining that and then experiencing that, no, it would make me happy. But by following this path, by dedicating thought to that, I would, I just bind myself to the further and further to the idea that it's the right thing to do. It would make me happy. And it's just, and then like if it doesn't make me happy, and most certainly it does not, nothing of that makes me happy, then I would think, oh, okay, let's just take some more or less uncharged example like cars. Yeah, it's just the wrong type of car. It's just the wrong color of car. It's just the wrong whatever car. I just need a different car. Or I bought used car, now I need new car. I have new car, but it's kind of, it was too expensive. It made too much of a hole in my pocket. I actually would be better off if I bought used car. Blah 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 blah. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. And we don't even question the very idea that cars would make us happy. And when I, it's a funny example, when when I bought this house where I live now, one of my colleagues at work, he asked me, okay, so you must be happy now, he said. And I looked at him like, what? What's the relationship? And I said, no, of course not. It's just a house. But he was like, he was stunned with my answer. And so, yeah, because when I was buying this house, I was absolutely sure that the house would not, it has no connection whatsoever with my happiness. And the house is incapable of making me happy. It is just me who could make myself a happy uh, tenant in this house, or happy owner of this house. And then, yeah, then it's a happy development. Um, okay, so let's move on. I'm willing to follow the guide God has given me to find out what my own best interests are. Yeah, so, and recognizing that I can perceive them by myself. So it's interesting that unless we accept the idea that I don't know anything, I don't know what anything is for, I don't know what my best interests are, I have no idea what will make me happy. I have no idea what's the best way to deal with this situation or that situation. And you know, all this life experience, all this kind of informal training that the world gives us, saying, hey, you have to be problem solvers, you have to know what to do, you have to plan, you have to kind of do all these kinds of things. And yeah, so for me, it was a major, major, major challenge to kind of release, well, start releasing this fixed conviction that I must know all the answers, and actually asking Holy Spirit, so guide God has given me, this Holy Spirit in this context, what's the right thing to do? And sometimes it felt uncomfortable because I wanted certainty. I need to plan for something, and I didn't have an answer. I didn't know what to do. And in some cases, I had the answer 5 minutes prior. In some cases, I hadn't had answer to the point when I had to have it. And then it could be whatever. It could it could be that I don't actually need to know the answer because the situation would evolve in such a way that something would be cancelled or whatever. So yeah, but I'm willing to follow the guide, and it's actually also important to follow. So asking Holy Spirit is one thing, but for a long time I thought that I don't hear the answers. I'm kind of asking, kind of listening, but I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. And then, because like all teachers of A Course in Miracles and all materials, everything, they spoke very definitively about that we should ask and listen for the answer from the Holy Spirit. And everyone keeps repeating all the same things. Ask, 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 listen, 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 you will know the answer. And I was squinting, like, you sure? Really? Should I? I think I know better. And yeah, it took me a long time to realize that, first of all, I asked just to tick the checkbox. And then I was really not interested in the answer. So I wasn't really listening because I thought I already know the answer. I know what to do. And then when the answer came, I didn't always like it. So yeah, there's a lot of work to release this resistance to actually ask properly, wholeheartedly, then listen to the answer without expectations, and third, follow through with the answer. Yeah, it's to this day for me, sometimes it's hard, but it gets a lot easier with practice. So once I realize that I actually can hear the answers and they are not frightened. So my fear was that Holy Spirit would ask a sacrifice from me. So this is the core idea. Holy Spirit will ask me to sacrifice my life, to sacrifice my world, to, I don't know, quit job, I don't know, donate all the money, whatever, 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 whatever. And it's not happening. So Holy Spirit will never, ever ask you to do any sacrifice. As soon as I realized that Holy Spirit will never ask me to do any sacrifice, and his answers are never frightful, so they're never fearful, I was like, I just breathed out, relaxed, and I just allowed myself to accept the answers. But yeah, it takes practice. It takes practice. So I'm willing to follow the guide God has given me to find out what my own best interests are, recognizing that I cannot perceive them by myself. All right. And so our last lesson for today, I don't know what anything is for. We already started, we touched on that in the previous lesson. To me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. Once again, to me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. It is for this purpose that I attempt to use everyone and everything. It is for this that I believe the world is for. Therefore, I don't recognize its real purpose. The purpose I have given the world has led to a frightening picture of it. Let me open my mind to the world's real purpose by withdrawing the one I have given it, the one purpose I have given it, and learning the truth about it. Yeah. So this is one of my absolute favorite lessons in the course. I don't know what anything is for, and I practice it quite frequently these days. Okay, let's quickly go through that. So I stress the first bullet point for a reason, of course. You can read more about this particular point in, I already mentioned, chapter 28, section 8, Blue Book, The Hero of the Dream. In Black Book, it's section 9. Yeah, so the only purpose of the world is to prove myself that my illusions about myself are real. And this is why, this is the only lesson my body and the external world is trying to teach again and again and again and again and again. And yeah, so this is why we're all convinced that we are the victims of the world, victims of the external events, situations, whatever it is. And so to me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. In the end of the day, the main illusion is that the world is this kind of root cause and I'm the effect. World is the cause and I'm the effect. What course is teaching is that I am, meaning my mind, is the cause, and everything else that I made is an effect. It's just a reflection of this cause. And what we look at in the reflection, we are trying to teach ourselves that this reflection is actually a cause and I am a victim. So I'm in this body, I'm at this time, and this particular, I'm occupying this space and this space-time continuum, and so on, so on, so on. So I have, I'm limited, and I was born by other bodies. I didn't ask for it, so on, so on. So I have problems. I have all that. It is for this purpose that I attempt to use everyone and everything. So again, I'm trying to convince myself that my illusions about myself are real. And this is all my interactions with everyone and everything are pursuing this goal and this goal only. I'm trying to convince myself that my illusions about myself are real, that I'm limited, I'm the body, I have a life that ends, we are born and we die, the time is linear, the space is kind of, I'm limited in this particular spot of the space, and to get somewhere else I actually have to travel, and so on. So it's all limitation, 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 and I'm trying to convince myself about it. It is for this that I believe the world is for. Therefore, I don't recognize its real purpose. The purpose I have given to the world has led to a frightening picture of it. Yes, we spoke about it a lot today. Let me open my mind to the world's real purpose by withdrawing the purpose I have given it and learning the truth about it. So essentially what Course is seeking is that we allow the world tell us what it is and how it is. Because what happens with many of us is that we are just projecting our meaning. So we say a chair is a chair. It looks like that. It's for sitting. It could have these properties. But if we just allow a chair to be as it is, it might tell us a slightly different story. It might tell us that it's loving us, and therefore when we sit, it's just enjoying us sitting on it. It's just blessing us. It's so kind to everyone who sits in it. So yeah, but we look at it usually as just a piece of furniture that we are using for very practical purposes, and we don't really think about it as of something that has something to offer to us other than place to sit. And so the course is seeking to actually change. And so we are projecting our ideas about the chair onto the chair. And this is what we think the chair is. But maybe chair is something else. And we could actually see that. And yeah, so by withdrawing the purpose that I have given to the world, let me open my mind um, and learning the truth about it. Okay. Okay, standard note about asking for help and about resistance. If you're looking this as recording, you can feel free to just pause and read everything that is written here. Short version of it. It is likely when we work with these ideas, especially for the first time, that you will experience some kind of resistance. Usually, so for me, resistance could take a variety of forms. For me, it usually works as I just don't understand. There's resistance to understand. Also, I think I could think that I understand, but my understanding would be very skewed. And I actually had difficulty with that for some time in the past. And nowadays, I'm not even trying to understand. I'm asking Holy Spirit to give me the meaning of the exercise and how to think about it. And in most cases, he gives me the right advice. So when you experience resistance, um, it is all right. Don't freak out. Don't blame yourself. Don't think that it's just too hard for you, too difficult, whatever. Just really ask for help, and Holy Spirit will help. So you might recognize after a while, like after a few minutes, maybe if you ask for help wholeheartedly and you're ready to release your resistance. So, for example, if you are convinced that I don't understand anything, like that, and yeah, and then I would, if I experience something like that, I would ask Holy Spirit, hey, Holy Spirit, I think I'm angry, and I'm angry because I'm fearful, and I'm fearful because the question I'm looking at, I'm afraid that the answer to this question is not what I think it is, and somehow I perceive it as not safe. And yeah, please replace this unsafety with safety, and please help me see it in its real light, and please give me the real meaning of what I'm looking at, and please tell me what to do. Please guide me. Please guide my actions. Please do the lesson with me the way it suits me the best. And then, yeah, I'll just continue doing the lesson. And after a while, I could, after a few minutes usually, but previously it was sometimes hours, I could notice a difference in my attitude. And yeah, this is just how it works for me. And, for everyone, it's very personal. And you just have to practice talk to Holy Spirit. I already noticed that for a long time, I had difficulty listening to the answers and following through with these answers. Okay, that was a quick note. And now I'm pausing the video and we're doing together a meditation on the lessons and over our discussion right now. And yeah, so I will do it for 10 minutes. You can do it for however long you feel. There's no actually pressure to do any meditation or anything. If you don't feel like doing meditation, fine, just skip it, and we'll continue with the lesson. All right, see you soon. Okay, we're back. How was your meditation? Okay, let me share back the screen. Yeah, so yeah, quick share what I felt. So for the most part, it's actually funny. For the most part, I did not feel anything at all. Um, but then towards the end of the meditation, I realized how I am not letting these ideas in, how I'm defending against them. I felt some tension in the kind of this area and in my head, and I realized how I'm actually resisting to get these ideas in and actually feel them and actually sink them in. And also on top, I live on a very, very, very quiet street, and someone is talking not far away from my window, and I can clearly hear that there is a conversation. Can't hear what they say, but um, yeah. So it was also distracting, and it was unusual, and I was feeling like, that's strange. But then I realized that I'm using just this conversation. People just maybe sharing, and they're not arguing. They're just like friendly conversation. And I was thinking, oh, people are just having friendly conversation. Why would I use it as an excuse to not accept these thoughts, to reject these thoughts, to point my attention to this conversation and see it as kind of attacking? Because my reaction clearly was there's some unusual, potentially dangerous thing. Someone's talking, and I have no idea what they're just blah blah blah. Doesn't matter. Uh, but yeah, I thought, well, that's a real life practice to actually keep focused, even in the presence of seeming distractions. And yeah, then closer to the end of the meditation, I realized that I just accept that people, I think they stopped right now. right after I right after I accepted and forgiven them for having this discussion, they just stopped, right, 2 minutes after. And yeah, that's what frequently happens with me these days. And I was thinking, well, how come that I was practicing for a long time, and I still have these things? And I was blaming myself a little bit. But then I realized, what a bullshit. Why am even doing all that? I've been through all that before. And I immediately started to relax, to release all the resistance, to make sure that the thoughts actually go through and I actually let them into my mind. And I stop paying attention to the distractions and all that. And that was just this loving, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like these ideas, they kind of infuse each other and they bounce off each other in different ways, very beautiful ways. And they form like a, um, probably the closest I could think of is a multicolored beam of light. And each thought form has its own kind of shade or color, but they kind of beam together. And yeah, it was very beautiful in the end. But yeah, so I'm glad I was able to forgive these lovely people for having a good discussion near my house, which is great. All right, so let's move on. Let me switch to another presentation, that one. And as you already know, 10 minutes, the slides will switch every 20 seconds. The idea is that I was guided to practice these review lessons in this way. Every time the slide changes, I would just somehow I would be guided to pick one point, one bullet point, and focus on that for 20 seconds. And then after slide changes again, pick something else. So you can do whatever you like. You can do first all the top ones, then second ones, third ones, whatever. I will somehow my eyes just find what to look at. Okay, let's start. All right. Switch back. Okay. So yeah, I will share what I felt. It wasn't very pronounced today. It was just a general kind of a little bit of a fuzzy feeling in the body, and I struggled with a couple of ideas to actually sink them in. I kind of thought, well, yeah, but yeah, yeah, couldn't even formulate properly, but it was a little bit of a resistance to take a couple of ideas in. Um, but yeah, overall, I think there were like compared to the first couple of lessons that we did in this series, when I felt like strongly negative, but then it transformed by the end of the doing the lesson. This time it was quite even. I was struggling with a couple of ideas, but overall, yeah, it was quite quiet. Many moments were peaceful, and yeah, not much to share today, which is okay. Was there any interesting developments happening to you? There actually were a couple. How did it go? What did you feel? Um, a couple of interesting developments. So yeah, so this one, to me, the purpose of everything is to prove my illusions about myself are real. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt it a lot deeper than before, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, this is it for today. Thanks for watching. And yeah, have a wonderful week. See you in 7 days. See ya. Bye.